Video game remakes like Gears of War Ultimate Edition here are a little bit of a triple threat, allowing gamers the chance to revisit some of their favourite titles from previous generations, and usually with glossy new visuals to boot. Not to mention they give new gamers the opportunity to experience titles they might have missed the first time around, all while raking in some sweet moolah for the devs and publishers. Now with Gears of War, Skyrim, Bioshock and even Crash Bandicoot all receiving remasters, the path is set for us to see some of our favourite games given a second wind. And with the recent announcement that the Batman Arkham remasters have been delayed indefinitely, here's some games that we'd love to see take their place. Nowadays, it's hard to think of Ubisoft without thinking of Assassin's Creed, which, it could be argued, has become the developer's signature series since its incarnation in 2007. But jump back a generation, and you'll see that way before Altair and Ezio were on the scene, Ubisoft were giving us our fill of platforming and wall running with the fantastic Prince of Persia series. Taking a little of the formula from the late 80s series of the same name, Ubisoft turned the Prince of Persia into a modern day classic, combining intuitive puzzle solving, fast-paced platforming and acrobatic action with the brilliant addition of time control, all of which only got better as the series went on. But even with 3 critically acclaimed main series titles under their belt, the last we saw from the Prince was in the enjoyable 2010 interquel The Forgotten Sands, which filled in some of the gaps between the first and second titles in the Sands of Time trilogy. And although it's fair to say that Ubisoft have moved on, with a handful of new franchises being developed by them over the past 6 years, we'd love to see someone take the time to polish up the games, ironing out those little imperfections and updating the visuals to deliver a fresh take on what is probably one of our favourite franchises to date. Grand Theft Auto was a powerhouse of a franchise, and as the poster child for fun open world gameplay and controversy, it's hard to imagine a time when GTA wasn't a must-have series. But although the first 2 games in the franchise, aptly named Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, were met with relative success, especially in the UK, it wasn't until 2001, with the release of Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PlayStation 2, that the series really began to shine. And with the release of quasi-sequels GTA Vice City and GTA San Andreas, things only got better and better. Now it's hard to talk about GTA without just saying a bunch of things that everybody already knows, but I will say this. Although at their core the GTA 3 series of games are still fun romps into the criminal underworld, after 15 years or so, the gameplay and graphics that the series is known for haven't aged particularly well, especially when compared to the latest title in the series, GTA 5. A complete overhaul of GTA 3 and its sequels, built within the same engine that was used for GTA 5, would give newer fans a chance to experience some of the finer moments from the series so far, whilst also allowing long-time fans the chance to cruise through Vice City or follow that damn train just one more time, all in beautiful 1080p. Now this entry can be considered a little bit of a cheat, because not only did the original Metal Gear Solid receive a fantastic remake in 2004 in the form of the GameCube exclusive Twin Snakes, but the other games in the series were re-released as part of a HD collection in 2011, which included the second and third installments of the games, as well as the previously PSP exclusive Peace Walker, all upscaled for the PlayStation 3. But what we're picturing here is more than that, taking the narratives and aesthetics of the Metal Gear Solid series and rebuilding them from the ground up in the Fox engine, which at this point is being used exclusively for Metal Gear Solid 5 and Pro Evolution Soccer. Now no matter what your opinion was of the latest Metal Gear, there's one thing that can't be denied. It played well, and graphically it was amazing. And with Metal Gear Solid being a series that we see ourselves returning to time and time again, the ability to revisit Shadow Moses or infiltrate Groznygrad, all with the same visual prowess that we got when we were sneaking around Afghanistan and Africa this time last September, would be a dream come true, and it wouldn't hurt to see a remake of the original Metal Gears either. Now following Kojima's untimely departure from Konami and the reported general craziness that's apparently going on over there, it's uncertain what the fate of the Metal Gear series is at all, but if there is a god, hopefully he can do us this solid. Now if you would have asked us to do this list a few short months ago, there's no doubt that Resident Evil 2 and 3 would have been right up here. But following last year's announcement that Resident Evil 2 was getting the full remake treatment, following in the footsteps of its predecessor Resident Evil, we think Capcom's got that one covered. And besides, everyone says that zombies are played out, but you know what's not played out? Goddamn dinosaurs. Dino Crisis was essentially the answer to the question, what would happen if Shinji Mikami and the Resi team spent the whole weekend watching Jurassic Park? Retaining the survival horror elements and puzzle solving that made Resident Evil so popular when it was released back in '96, Dino Crisis mixes things up by replacing Resi's slow, cumbersome zombies with ferocious dinosaurs, like the gigantic T-Rex and the nimble Velociraptor, which unfortunately does little to make the game any less panic-cackingly scary, even to this day. Whilst Dino Crisis never quite received the limelight of its zombie-ridden brethren, with 3 games already in the series and a resurgence in the popularity of classic survival horror games, the time is right to bring this fossil back from the dead. And hey, I'm sure if Capcom won't do it, life will find a way. Now this next game is one that we've wanted remade for a while. Sorry, let me just quickly check my email. Rockstar announces Warriors remaster for PlayStation 4, complete with 1080p visuals. Okay, we'll just turn that off. As I was saying, mention Rockstar and chances are that your brain goes directly to Grand Theft Auto, or at a push Red Dead. But back in 2005, Rockstar proved just how diverse they were when they released a game based off the cult classic movie, The Warriors. Taking its characters, settings and a good portion of its story from the movie of the same name, released 26 years earlier, The Warriors allows players to enter the shoes of various members of the eponymous gang, playing out the entirety of the events of the movie, in addition to the huge backstory that was written exclusively for the game. Now for a game which ties in so tightly with a pre-existing media, there's room for thought that people unfamiliar with The Warriors might not be able to get fully involved. But Rockstar did what they did best by not only making the game as a true celebration of the movie's legacy, but also just making a damn fun game. Missions vary from spray painting over other gangs' burners, to taking out enemy gang leaders, to the unforgettable Blackout mission, which poses players the challenge of just wrecking as much stuff as they possibly can during a local riot. The Warriors was, regardless of how fun it is even to this day, limited by the technology of the time. A remake for modern consoles would allow, theoretically, endless possibilities of what to do with the gang warfare aspect of the franchise, and the inclusion of gang-based online play, like we're beginning to see in games like GTA Online, would fit perfectly into a remake of one of PS2's somewhat hidden gems. For a game called Donkey Kong, the monkey himself was never really the star of the 1981 arcade game. That title goes to Jumpman, who would eventually know and love as Mr. Mario himself, while Kong became somewhat of a bit character. That was until the lovely guys at Rare turned up, slapped a tie on him, and gave us the brilliant Donkey Kong Country series of games, which completely revamped the character for a new generation on the Super Nintendo. Now at the time, the game was highly praised for its use of 3D models to create sprites, which, along with the revolutionary graphics of the game in general, were one of the reasons the game was such a success. And although the graphics today still hold up, the real reason to head back to the games is the fun, tightly controlled platforming that took Donkey and his new chum Diddy all across the country, swinging, swimming, and even minecarting their way through some of the tightest platforming we've seen, even to this day. Donkey Kong Country got a revival of sorts not too long ago, with Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in 2010 and 2014 respectively, but it would still be great to have another opportunity to replay some of the classics, especially with those beautiful updated visuals. In a time of serious shooters like Medal of Honor and Halo, which had us playing through some dangerous missions as gaming's true heroes, Free Radical Design came along and gave us one of the most unhinged first-person shooters we've ever seen, Time Splitters, which threw all that seriousness out the window and gave us monkeys dressed like Robocop. Time Splitters is a hard game to explain. At its core, it takes everything you'd expect from shooters of the time: fast-paced action, weapon pickups, the works. What made Time Splitters a little bit different was its story, which, although varying from title to title, always took players on a zany romp through time, from ancient Aztec ruins to Bond-inspired 70s cop missions, right through to futuristic sci-fi settings, with weapons and characters from each era fitting perfectly into the weird world we were traversing. With the talk of Time Splitters 4 floating around for years, and the little hope that's left for the sequel slowly burning away, it would be great to get back into the fight with Cortez and co for a truly messed up trip down memory lane. No matter how enjoyable a game is, it's always a bit of a cop-out to see games remade only a generation after we've experienced them the first time. But sometimes, the wonder of what a game could have been if it was made in a generation more recently is enough to qualify throwing some more cash at the series just one more time. Everyone knows Naughty Dog. From the early PS1 days with Crash Bandicoot to their PlayStation 2 classics like Jak and Daxter, the company was well known for its fun, cartoony platformers rather than its more realistic games. That all changed in 2007, when Naughty Dog released Uncharted: Drake's Fortune on the PlayStation 3, which, instead of opting for a more bright and cartoony styles that the company was known for, buckled down and gave us what, at the time, was one of the most graphically realistic games we'd seen. Now, I'm sure everyone already knows the story of Uncharted. Nathan Drake is an explorer / archaeologist a la Indiana Jones. Travels the world, fights bad guys, finds treasures, yada yada yada. And whilst the story, characters and overall themes of the game are one of the many reasons we love the series so much, here we want a remake simply to see how beautiful this series could look on the PlayStation 4. Whoa, let me explain myself. I know sometimes as a gamer it's frowned upon to praise a game solely based on its graphics, because realistically the most important part of the game is the game. But when Uncharted 4 was released earlier this year, we got one of the most visually striking games that is yet to be released on the PS4. And although Uncharted 1 through 3 still look amazing, when compared to their current generation brethren, they look less than stellar, even in the upscaled versions that were released on PS4 late last year. A remake of the first 3 games in the series, using the same technology behind Uncharted 4 or Thief's End, would give us a chance to revisit some of the most breathtaking scenery in gaming, in a way that it was truly intended. When you ask most stealth game fans what their favourite sneaky series is, they might give you a Splinter Cell, an Assassin's Creed, or even a Metal Gear. But it's important to note that before those games had us on our tippy toes dying from shadows to shadows, there was one game series that taught us the importance of patience over action, and more importantly, the way of the ninja. Tenchu Stealth Assassins was a game that many of us probably had at least a little bash on when we were younger, and for many of us, may have been our first foray into the 3D stealth genre. Tenchu was a series that focused almost exclusively on stealth, opting to swap out the more action-oriented gameplay of ninja games like Shinobi and Ninja Gaiden with more methodical, slower-paced approaches. But, much like those games, Tenchu could be ruthlessly difficult, with sword fights posing major challenges if the player was seen by enemies. For the time, Tenchu was deeply atmospheric and brought to life its setting of feudal Japan brilliantly. But, as with everything apart from fine wine, age is not always the kindest of beasts, and 20 years later, Tenchu is a little worse for wear, with clunky controls that were built with a zero analog stick controller in mind, to the blocky graphics that look like pre-2004 versions of RuneScape. With 5 main series Tenchu titles already out, spanning from the PS1 to PS2 to Xbox 360, there's enough Tenchu lore to be able to create 5 new remakes. What we'd like to see though is a single reimagining of the series, combining all the best aspects of the games, both in terms of gameplay and narrative, into one Super Tenchu game, allowing both long-term fans and newcomers alike to jump back into the shadows with the Stealth Assassins for the first time in 9 years. So there you've got a bunch of games that we'd love to see remade, but with 50 odd years of video games behind us, we're almost damn sure that there's some that we've missed. Maybe you think it's unfair that Crash Bandicoot's getting a remake while Spyro's left to rot in hell, I mean Skylanders. Or maybe you're hella crazy and think that the masterpiece that's Duke Nukem Forever deserves a second run. Whatever your thoughts, let us know in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. Bye.